is the temperature at which a metal loses its magnetism. I don't care what that ball did. The firefighters are the winners tonight. $33,000. Woo! What a great night. We'll see you next time on the Quiz with
Can Elizabeth Banks keep her cool on a frigid glacier? All new Bear Grylls is running wild tomorrow on Fox.
Now, your primetime local news leader. Fox 22 News at 10.
Despite many Memorial Day parades being canceled due to the weather, Mid-Coast Maine communities did not let the rain stand in their way of honoring those who lost their lives while serving our country. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, Memorial Day Monday. I'm Doug Beggs. Residents from across Waldo County also gathered in Searsmont to show their appreciation to the first responders who answered the call during the Robbins Lumber incident. Alex Schley reports. Community leaders say coming together in the aftermath of tragedy was important, rain or shine.
Thank you for your service. Thank you. Hundreds lined the streets of Searsmont Monday, waving flags, applauding first responders, and showing their support for the men and women who responded to the deadly Robbins Mill fire.
Our town has been through so much lately, and we just wanted to show our appreciation for everybody and what everybody's going through.
Alongside Searsmont officials of first responders from several fire departments across the region, many of which responded to the silo explosion earlier this month, took part in this year's parade.
But we thought it'd be a little different this year because of the Robbins Mill fire. And we just thought we'd honor them.
Before the parade began, the community also took time to honor those who died serving their country and others who could not be there, including firefighter Andrew Cross, who lost his life in the explosion, and the dozens of others who were injured.
I'm pretty emotional, actually, and thankful for everybody.
We're a tight-knit community. Everybody came together, and it's a shame that a firefighter had to lose his life, but I think going forward, things will probably change in this community. They have changed.
Town leaders say the turnout was a powerful reminder of Searsmont's strength and resilience, even in the wake of tragedy.
It's overwhelming, humbling, brings joy to my heart, honestly.
In Searsmont, Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Senator King released a statement in remembrance of fallen service members. King is a senior member of the Senate Armed Services and Veterans Affairs Committees. In the statement, he said, quote, "One of our most solemn and important holidays in this country is Memorial Day. Sometimes we think of it as an opportunity to have a barbecue with our friends at the beginning of summer, but really it's a time to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our country. Dating back to the Civil War, Memorial Day has become such an important and emotional time for so many people across our country," end quote. Senator Susan Collins also made a stop in Searsmont today. In addition to honoring the men and women who gave their lives serving our country, she also shared her appreciation to the first responders who answered the call for the Robbins Lumber incident, including Moral Volunteer firefighter Andrew Cross, who died at the scene. In a Facebook post, she added, quote, "It was incredible how many local families and first responders turned out in the pouring rain. In the face of tragedy, Searsmont has been a salient reminder of the resilience of our Maine communities and the kindness of our neighbors. As they continue to recover from the Robbins Lumber explosion, we stand with them and keep those affected, especially the family of fallen volunteer firefighter Andrew Cross, close to our hearts," end quote. Governor Janet Mills was in Prospect Harbor this morning to speak at the town's annual Memorial Day ceremony. The ceremony was held at the Prospect Harbor Women's Club, where locals gathered to honor the legacy of those who sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. Mills says commemorating the fallen is a reminder to never forget the values that they fought for.
We remember the cost of a free republic, a democracy undivided though diverse. We recommit to keeping that republic, to defending the Constitution and our freedoms as long as the light and the warmth of life remains in us.
The ceremony also featured comments from town officials, including Selectman Bob Harmon.
So let us remember that freedom is never free. We're here today, we raise our flags and salute our flag of the United States to honor these people and to continue to remember.
The ceremony closed with a moment of silence and the playing of taps. At the Coal Land Transportation Museum in Bangor, 3,168 flags were placed on the grounds, each one representing a Maine hero who gave their life during World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. It's just one of the aspects of the Memorial Day service held annually at the museum. Our Grace Blanchard was there and has the story.
At the Galen Cole Family Land Transportation Museum, a key part of their mission is supporting area veterans.
We've been hosting it for decades now, and it's just a really special time for us to take a moment to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Forward march! A dedication demonstrated annually through their Memorial Day service.
So one of the 4 pillars of our foundation is veterans and promoting patriotism in our communities, and this is just one special way that we can do that each year without fail.
The people of Bangor are always so supportive of the military and everything we do in the Air National Guard and the Maine National Guard in general, so it's just very heartwarming.
Keynote speaker Colonel Byron Newell, commander of the 101st Air Refueling Wing in Bangor, addressed the recent military operation Epic Fury, reflecting on the 13 soldiers and airmen we lost and the 180 maniacs still deployed.
Some of them left in October. They keep getting their orders extended. Some of them left in January. Their orders are extended. We've gotten some of them home, but they're still out there. And the uncertainty weighs on all of us.
The rain let up just as it was time for veterans to place a wreath at the various memorials on the grounds, a moment that signifies the true meaning of the holiday.
I hope that everyone remembers the same thing, that this is a day of remembrance, that we remember those that did make the ultimate sacrifice.
In Bangor, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
In other news, today is Memorial Day, but families across the country are also observing National Missing Children's Day. Here in Maine, there are 9 children who are missing, some for as long as 50 years. Some were toddlers when they disappeared, others were teenagers, but all their families are still waiting for answers. All right, folks, let's hit pause and take a look outside for a first look at our forecast.
All right, thank you. Old Town Redemption now offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 drawing. Let's talk weather out there today. Yeah, some rain showers earlier held temperatures back today, but a south wind is kicking in now. Tomorrow, we're going to have high temperatures back up near 80 or so as the wind out of the northwest all day today is shifting more out of the southwest tonight, and that will bring warmer temperatures in for tomorrow and Wednesday before a front comes through Wednesday night. It's going to cool things off for Thursday. Highs back in the 60s on Thursday. Out there today, the rain showers came through earlier. Now the skies are clearing out. There's still a few clouds across the area now, but overall cooler, drier Canadian air coming in for a couple hours this evening, followed by the return of some heat tomorrow with those highs near 80 or so tomorrow and Wednesday. High pressure building in for 2 days, and then it gets a bit messy around here, likely late Wednesday night into early portions of Thursday morning. Our forecast for tonight, though, is clearing skies, low temperatures down near 50. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good to know, Jeff. Thank you for that report. We'll see you later on the broadcast. Folks, still to come here on Fox 22 News at 10. Bernie Sanders packed Orono Sunday night, backing Democratic candidates Graham Plattner and Troy Jackson. And registered nurses at Holton Regional Hospital plan a 4-day strike starting tomorrow, citing staffing concerns and stalled contract talks impacting patient care. Those stories and more after the break.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
A few weeks ago, I went down to the basement to see what was happening with the boilers and opened the door, and there was about 12 to 14 inches of water in our basement. I knew who to call right away, and that was Bouchard. They were here within a half hour. They work well with our insurance company. They're very, very efficient, and all I have to do is call them any time of day. They're going to take care of me. Our business is our life, and that's why I don't hesitate to recommend them to other people.
Serving is more than a tradition. It's a call, and you've answered it. It's your legacy, and it deserves to be recognized. That's why we're proud to extend exclusive offers to military personnel active or retired. You move this country forward, and we're riding with you. Get this low-mileage lease on this 2026 Chevy Trax LT for around $279 per month. And now, eligible military personnel can get $1,000 bonus cash.
When there's a big job to do, you send the person you know will deliver. Joe Baldacci. Lowering grocery prices, protecting Medicare, defending a woman's right to choose. Those are big jobs. Joe Baldacci's always delivered for Maine. He passed laws making healthcare easier to get and helped restore mental health centers. Joe Baldacci goes to work for us in Maine. And in Congress, he will too. Project 218 is responsible for the content of this ad.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders brought his National Fighting Oligarchy tour to Maine yesterday evening, drawing more than 1,000 people to the Collins Center for the Arts in Orono to endorse Democratic U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plattner and Democratic candidate for governor Troy Jackson. The senator from Vermont has been traveling across the country to highlight economic inequality. This marked his 40th stop in the Fighting Oligarchy tour. Sanders focused much of his speech on the need for higher taxes on corporations and billionaires, arguing that wealth and power have become dangerously concentrated among a small population of Americans.
It's not only Trump that is trying to undermine American democracy. It is all of these billionaires and their super PACs who want to own and control the United States Congress. We cannot allow that to happen.
Plattner and Jackson tied the senator's national message to their local campaigns. Jackson, who Plattner has endorsed for his first choice for governor, is the only Democratic candidate in a competitive primary race that received an endorsement from Senator Sanders. Plattner, the presumptive nominee to challenge Senator Susan Collins, told the crowd of progressives it's time for a, quote, political revolution.
We will not just fight the oligarchy, we will defeat the oligarchy and the political system that it maintains.
And what little time we have is being stolen by an oligarchy who see our lives, who see us as nothing more than a commodity, an opportunity to monetize.
This was the first of two events in Maine. The second stop is in Portland tonight. The primary is on June 9th. In other news, we go to northern Maine. Registered nurses at Holton Regional Hospital will begin a 4-day strike starting tomorrow. They are protesting what they say is management's refusal to address their concerns about emergency department staffing and its impact on patient care. A statement says after the closure of the labor and delivery services back in May of last year, nurses had reached an agreement with the hospital to increase RN staffing to all 3 nurses at all the times in the emergency department in anticipation of pregnant patients showing up with urgent cases there. However, they say new management took over at the end of May of 2025 and is not honoring that agreement. Holton Regional Hospital nurses say they have been negotiating for over a year and a half now for a new contract. The last one expired in May of 2024. We did reach out to the hospital today, but we were unable to receive a comment. Now to Mount Desert Island now. Island Connections is celebrating independence on Mount Desert Island with its annual Match Challenge fundraiser. From Memorial Day through July 4th, all donations to Island Connections will be matched dollar for dollar, up to $15,000. The campaign ends on July 4th. It aims to highlight Island Connections' mission to enhance independence and quality of life for seniors and people with disabilities on Mount Desert Island. Organizers say the money raised will provide free rides for medical appointments, food shopping and food delivery, prescription pickups, and more. To contribute to the Match Challenge, visit islconnections.org. Again, that's islconnections.org, and click Donate. All right, folks, still to come here on Fox 22 News at 10. New details emerging after a man was fatally shot by United States Secret Service following a shooting at a White House security checkpoint Saturday. And uncertainty continues across the Middle East as a possible U.S.-Iran peace deal begins to emerge. Those stories and more as Fox 22 News at 10 on this Monday continues.
People ask me all the time, does Lowry & Associates really get all of those clients, all of those big settlements? Yes, we do. And you know what else is true? I really am standing on top of this big truck.
At Spectrum, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between speed, reliability, and value. That's why Spectrum fiber-powered internet gives you all three for just $40 a month. No contracts, no commitment. Just great internet at a great price. Spectrum fiber-powered internet delivers the fastest and most reliable internet for everything you do at home. Streaming, gaming, and connecting. Switch today and get Spectrum fiber-powered internet for just $40 a month. Call now or go online.
For 20 years, Graham Plattner has shared his hateful and bigoted beliefs online. Police officers who keep us safe, Plattner says they're all bastards. Black people, Plattner insults them and says they don't tip. And if you dare disagree with Graham Plattner, he calls you retarded and a fag. 20 years of nonstop bigotry and hate from Graham Plattner. Read it yourself at bigotedplattner.com. Pine Tree Results PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Summer's here. You can celebrate anything, like buying your first car. Yes! Cute. Finishing a big project. Or even your dog's birthday.
He's eating the cup. Is that okay? It's his daily fiber.
Now, from the longest-lasting brand, you could get a $265 a month lease on an all-wheel drive Corolla Cross SUV with a $14,274 total contract cost.
Your summer starts here.
Toyota. Let's go places.
When Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, want to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Blazing Trails is Lincoln's #1 trusted dispensary, providing outstanding product and customer service to Eastern and Central Maine.
Today, remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We are learning new information tonight about the man fatally shot by Secret Service agents after authorities said he opened fire at a White House security checkpoint last Saturday. The 21-year-old Maryland man was previously known to the United States Secret Service and had a history of encounters with law enforcement. This as the Trump administration is once again pushing hard for a security upgrade to the grounds. Fox News Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel has more.
The Justice Department is citing Saturday's shooting incident in its support of the White House ballroom and underground secure facility. In a court filing, the DOJ points to the need for, quote, a singular vital national security facility will provide a safe haven from attackers after a gunman was killed shooting at a Secret Service checkpoint near the White House.
The White House needs to be protected, not only against shooters, but against drones, not only against drones, but against all of the others, chemical warfare, biological warfare, etc.
Although some Republicans oppose authorizing $1 billion in Secret Service money for the White House ballroom. House Speaker Mike Johnson is joining the president in expressing gratitude for the Secret Service taking swift action.
Everybody understands that we're in a heightened threat environment. The president has had 3 failed assassination attempts, that were direct. I was with him for 2 of the 3. It's becoming too common, but we understand the risk.
The gunman has been identified as 21-year-old Nasir Best, who was well known to law enforcement. Secret Service agents took him out after authorities say he pulled out a revolver and opened fire near the White House.
Clearly a case of an emotionally disturbed person. We refer to them in law enforcement as EDPs. Definitely needed some mental health, interdiction at some point in time along the way.
A bystander wounded in the incident is in serious but non-life-threatening condition. In a previous encounter with Best a year ago, authorities say he walked into a restricted area on a sidewalk near the White House. Investigators say he, quote, claimed he was Jesus Christ and that he wanted to get arrested. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
President Trump is trying to get the U.S. out of its latest foreign conflict with Iran. But there's still no deal. And despite earlier threats of military action, the administration is now saying there is no deadline. The president posted today he is insisting on what he calls a meaningful deal and that negotiations are proceeding nicely. Fox News correspondent Ashley Webster has the latest from Tel Aviv.
Despite some optimistic statements from the Trump administration over the past several days, Tehran is painting a murkier picture. Iran's foreign ministry says the only focus for now is ending the conflict.
It is true that we have reached a conclusion regarding a large part of the topics under discussion. But to say that this means the signing of an agreement is imminent, no one can make such a claim.
President Trump adding another layer to the discussions by demanding that Middle Eastern nations join the Abraham Accords, linking the initiative from his first term, which aims to broker normalization with Israel to a potential peace deal with Iran. The president specifically naming Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and Jordan. Writing on Truth Social, quote, after all the work done by the United States to try and pull this very complex puzzle together, it should be mandatory that all of these countries, at a minimum, simultaneously sign on to the Abraham Accords. The president is even floating the idea of Iran joining those accords once a peace deal is reached. And those talks are widening around the region. Today, Iran's parliamentary speaker and foreign minister arrived in Doha, Qatar, for talks on ending the conflict. At the same time, a reminder of Iran's iron fist dictatorship. State media reporting that a man was executed today on charges related to widespread anti-government protests in January. Meantime, the daily clashes between Israeli forces and Hezbollah terrorists in southern Lebanon carry on. Tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu announcing that IDF forces will dramatically escalate their operations in Lebanon, saying Hezbollah is refusing to stop its attacks.
What this requires from us now is to intensify the blows, to increase the force. We will strike them hard, decisively.
Also tonight, it's being reported that Iran's president has given the go-ahead to restore internet access across the country. But interestingly, the Revolutionary Guard is questioning whether he has the authority to make that decision. In Tel Aviv, Ashley Webster, Fox News.
There are growing concerns about the global humanitarian aid system. A new report says it is failing the people it is meant to help, with billions of dollars of waste and overshadowing political agendas. Fox News correspondent Alexa McAdams reports from London.
From Gaza to Ukraine, civilians are growing desperate, hospitals are under attack, and the humanitarian aid system just can't keep up. That's according to a new report in the Lancet Medical Journal.
The humanitarian system is no longer fit for purpose, given the types of emergencies that we have and their magnitude.
Dr. Paul Spiegel is a Johns Hopkins professor who helped lead this study after spending decades working in refugee camps and war zones around the world.
I've been doing this for well over 30 years. We're in a very dark time.
Shining a light on one of the world's largest disasters, Sudan's brutal civil war with tens of millions in need as hospitals close and famine spreads. The report shows the world knows how to save lives, but the system is failing to deliver. Some agencies too bureaucratic and others too slow. The study says the United Nations is in need of reform. And in the United States, the Trump administration shuttered USAID over suspected fraud and abuse. During that restructuring, many of its most vital programs were folded into the State Department.
USAID needed to be restructured. The humanitarian, the UN needs to be restructured in a very significant way. But it's how you do that. Make sure that you do it in such a way that vulnerable populations across the globe are not going to be hurt.
The authors are pushing for major global reforms, including overhauling funding, sending aid directly to local communities, accountability if governments and armed groups block aid, and health care as a basic human right.
It's really a complete rebalancing to make sure that the system actually works for the people it's intended to help.
And it's not just the United States that's cutting foreign aid. The UK, Germany, and France are too. And listen to this. According to this report, less than half of people around the world in need may actually receive aid this year. In London, I'm Alexis McAdams, Fox News.
A warning from the Pope on the dangers of artificial intelligence. In a break from tradition, Pope Leo attended the presentation of his first encyclical letter, the Magnificat Humanitas, and called for significant regulation for AI. Fox News Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel again has the latest.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed.
In his first major letter to the world, Pope Leo XIV warned of the dangers of artificial intelligence, saying he considers AI to be the biggest threat to humanity today.
Like nuclear energy, it must be at the service of all and of the common good. Decisions about technology must never be separated from conscience and responsibility.
The first American-born Pope called for political leaders to slow down and closely regulate the development of AI systems, and for its developers to work for the common good rather than earning tremendous wealth.
What he's really concerned about is what he calls a culture of power. What he's calling for is attention to the dignity of every human person.
Only with such an integral vision can artificial intelligence be directed toward the common good.
The Vatican included AI giant Anthropic as part of its effort to have dialogue with tech giants in Silicon Valley. A co-founder of Anthropic welcomed the Pope's concern and criticism.
We need informed critics who will tell the labs when we are failing. We need moral voices that the incentives cannot bend.
Pope Leo also apologized for the Catholic Church's long delay in condemning slavery, while warning of new forms of slavery from the rise of AI. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Folks, still to come here on Fox 22 News at 10. In the small Waldo County town of Prospect, a former one-room schoolhouse is finding new life with a new purpose. And in sports, the Maine baseball team season has come to an end. Our Max Stern will be in a little bit later to explain that. We'll be right back after the break.
Are you ready for this adventure?
Bear Grylls is running wild. All new Tuesdays on Fox.
Now at McDonald's, you can choose your study meal or even your drive-through dinner with McValue.
Get a McDouble meal deal for $6, or make that a hot and spicy McChicken meal deal for $5. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
We need to shake up Augusta. But who will do it? An insider or an outsider? The insider is Bobby Charles, a D.C. lobbyist for 25 years. The outsider? Jonathan Bush, a conservative businessman and disruptor. Bush is the only candidate who's created hundreds of jobs in Maine while reducing waste and fraud. And Bush will slash your property and income taxes.
I'm Jonathan Bush. Let's shake up Augusta.
Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center is your destination for all things green, and yellow, and pink, and red, and, well, you'll understand when you visit us. Plants aren't just another department here. They're our whole world. From gardening classes to our expansive greenhouses, we cultivate a community of budding and seasoned gardeners alike. Professional landscapers turn to us too. Shouldn't you? Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center, growing with you since 1947.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles. Woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
Does Inez want a $4 sausage biscuit meal deal or a sausage McMuffin meal deal? Sausage McMuffin. Get more value with your $4 breakfast meal deal from McDonald's.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us for Fox 22 News at 10. I'm Doug Banks. Staying with some national headlines now. Drones are increasingly playing a bigger role in everyday life and business operations as the drone industry is projecting extreme growth over the next couple decades. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively is in Washington with the latest.
Fireworks are more and more becoming a thing of the past. Now, when you look up this summer, you may see drones taking over the skies to mark the holidays.
It's crazy how far we've come with technology.
Firefly Drone Shows is now just one of many companies communities are calling on to produce local drone shows as a safer alternative to fireworks.
All the movements and colors are designed on the computer weeks before we ever arrive on site.
But drone shows are just one of the several ways the industry is evolving. Now they're flying over crime scenes and battlefields.
After some point in time, just about every other soldier is going to have a drone, and he'll fly a drone.
And now some commercial businesses are flying high with new ways to deliver food and even medicine.
The global drones market, including the consumer, commercial, and military drones, to grow from around $69 billion in 2026 to nearly $148 billion by 2036.
One of the largest markets projected for commercial drones is now agriculture, with farmers turning to drones to monitor crop health, spray pesticides, and map fields. And in energy sectors, drones are helping with those hard-to-reach tasks, such as examining oil rigs at their highest peaks.
What is changing now in the industry is the quality of the data that drone can collect.
Drones are also bringing higher risks. Swarm technology, for example, allows multiple drones to coordinate on large-scale wartime operations.
We are categorically not prepared as a country to be able to stop swarm attacks.
Still, with those added concerns, many say they can appreciate how drones are taking us to new heights.
I love fireworks, but the drones were pretty cool.
But fireworks aren't all duds yet. Washington, D.C. is making plans for a world record 30-minute fireworks show for the 250th 4th of July celebrations this year. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
This Memorial Day, whether you're cracking open a can of your favorite beverage or traveling to get to your loved ones, there's one product all around us this holiday, and it's aluminum. Over the past few months, the Iran war has been leading to aluminum shortages in parts of the world, where the Middle East accounts for roughly 9% of the global aluminum supply. Fox News correspondent Caroline Elliott is in New York with a look at whether American consumers should be concerned.
A shortage of Diet Coke for some is worse than the 2020 shortage of toilet paper. In India, where Diet Coke is only sold in cans, the recent scarcity of aluminum due to the Iran war has sparked, quote, Diet Coke parties, with loyal consumers decorating cans of their favorite beverage as a token of their support.
So basically, this is our way of an ode to the entire shortage of Diet Coke. And with the aluminum can shortage, I think a lot of people are trying to sort of keep the Diet Coke as an aesthetic, as a keepsake.
But here in the United States, aluminum industry leaders say it's unlikely shelves will go bare of the beloved beverage anytime soon.
Yes, this is serious. Yes, they are having to work hard to adjust, but that they are doing exactly that.
Aluminum Association CEO Charles Johnson says its members have been closely monitoring the situation in the Strait of Hormuz.
The disruption from the Gulf and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, it's really serious for our industry. It represents a large-scale supply chain disruption, one that on a scale that we haven't seen in many years.
And at a time when gas prices have already skyrocketed due to the chokehold in the strait.
Our view is that it is a temporary increase.
Johnson says it's no surprise Americans are growing increasingly concerned about aluminum. Still, he says the industry is making real-time adjustments and working hard to secure the nation's supply does not run dry.
So we are investing in the U.S. economy like we never have before. We're putting more manufacturing right here at home, and we're recycling more.
And while there may not be a shortage of aluminum cans, thankfully for my fellow Diet Coke lovers out there, aluminum prices are going up and have now surged to 4-year highs since the war broke out. In New York, Caroline Elliott, Fox News.
This Memorial Day, Americans are gathered across the country to pay respects and hold observances. In Arlington, Virginia, President Trump marked the moment with a speech to the country. Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith has the latest on that and how many of this year's events were expanded to also mark the nation's 250th anniversary.
With a military salute, President Trump, joined by Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, commemorated Memorial Day, joining ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
From 1776 to 2026, America has always stood as a great and moral cause. Our warriors are no mere mercenaries. They are guardian angels who stride across the battlefields of history.
This as political leaders across the country paid tribute to the nation's fallen service members.
Let us not lose sight of the gift you've been given, the gift of freedom.
In New York, the Intrepid Museum opened its doors to veterans and members of the armed forces for a special wreath-laying ceremony.
Let us always remember that none of this was promised. It was won by sacrifice.
Cities large and small joining in to salute those who've served.
This is the best parade ever. I've been to numerous parades, but this one is the best.
Now viral, World War II veteran David Yoho's emotional message Saturday to younger generations.
We gave up our yesterdays for your tomorrows.
This as the nation is on the cusp of its 250th birthday, and Memorial Day only kicking off the start of many more tributes.
We're going to honor our heroes here, those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country and the preservation of freedom.
And this evening at Arlington National Cemetery, country stars as well as veterans and lawmakers are going to host a candlelight ceremony to mark America's 250th birthday. In Washington, Mark Meredith, Fox News.
Well, what does it mean to be an American? Many of the nearly 350 million people living here have an idea and a story that defines it. For the past year, interviewers have traveled coast to coast collecting those stories from everyday Americans, so future generations can get a glimpse of life in America on its 250th birthday. Fox's Rebecca Castor has more on the project and how you can get involved.
And see, we're getting it all over.
A veteran who washes gravestones in Virginia, a third-generation restaurant owner on the coast of Maine,
the Green Monster,
and a tour guide at Boston's Fenway Park. These are just some of the stories included in the America 250 Commission's Oral History Project, fittingly titled Our American Story.
And it's really been an effective way to capture the spirit of America.
For almost an entire year, America 250 Airstreams have been touring the country, recording thousands of interviews, some of which will be archived at the Library of Congress for future generations. A video time capsule of our American life.
These are stories that are going to live on long after 2026.
And what I really enjoy listening to people say is, I don't have a story, I don't know what to share, and then I walk them through some of the questions and they get much more comfortable, and then they realize I actually do have a story to tell.
The tour has upcoming stops in Oklahoma, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, but Americans can also submit their story online. And if you find yourself in the nation's capital, you can record your story here at the White House Visitor Center.
So when people listen to these stories, I really hope that they look at their neighbor, they look at their friends, they look at their family, they look at their community, and actually want to have a conversation with people.
And the interviews won't stop after July 4th. The team is using all of 2026 to gather heartfelt stories that capture the American dream.
I think the stories have a similar thread, which is it is courage, it is perseverance, it's pride, it's also hope, and really, wanting to become that perfect union, which is a journey that should never end.
In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
All right, folks, Jeff Weller is in next with your full 5-day forecast.
A bit cool out there today with high temperatures pretty much in the 60s, but hold on, the heat comes on tomorrow. 80s are back in the forecast tomorrow and Wednesday. Details for you when I come back.
Barry Higgins from Maple Lane Farm. We have our own beef herd here, around about 800 head, and it's raised right here on the farm. And we go direct to the consumer. No middleman, all natural, good old-fashioned Maine beef. Our quality is unbeatable. We have specials on Facebook every week. We guarantee our product 100%, whether it be beef, pork, or chicken. And we have a small selection of lamb also.
Maple Lane Farm, a candy store for a carnivore.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
Tech that lets you be you, how it should be. The Hyundai Tucson. Lease an all-wheel drive Hyundai Tucson SE for $209 a month, or get 0% APR plus 0 payments for 90 days. Hurry in.
Lights, camera, cheese. The Cheese House is looking for its next star, and it could be you. If you're 21 or older, enter for your chance to appear in the next commercial. Stop by the Cheese House at 5 Pike Drive in Fairfield to enter. While you're there, browse their huge selection of glassware and 420 specialty foods. But we have the cheese! Remember, entries are happening in person at the Cheese House, 5 Pike Drive in Fairfield. Bring your personality, bring your smile, and we have the cheese.
4 international territories compete for the title of Global Master Chef.
My 3 daughters are watching.
Tell them I say hi. Master Chef Global Gauntlet, all new Wednesdays on Fox.
Iron Horse Motorcycle Lawyers, ride smart. And we're talking weather out there for today. A bit cool today. Highs pretty much in the 60s across the area, but much warmer air is coming in for tomorrow as the wind is now shifting out of the southwest. Compared to yesterday, though, we're also getting warmer. But this is just the beginning of this because we'll likely have high temperatures tomorrow hanging out near 80, while today was pretty much in the 60s across the region. High 67 here in Bangor, 63 in the Millinocket area, so comfortably cool, where the average high temperature is near 70. We were below that today across the entire area, but hold on, warmer temperatures are on the way. Low temperatures last night, 47 here in the Bangor area. That's comfortable. We'll do it again tonight and probably tomorrow night as well. All right, so out there now is a small craft advisory. The winds are switching more out of the southwest. We're getting some wave heights around 5 to 6 feet directly on shore right now. That will continue tonight into tomorrow. So this continues through tomorrow morning. This may be extended into tomorrow afternoon as well. But generally, the heat is on across the Midwest and Plains now. This is all going to slide our direction as well. So this is the 14-day temperature outlook. It keeps us above average in temperatures for tomorrow and also Wednesday. A bit of a cool down Thursday and Friday, but generally speaking, warmer temperatures, above average temperatures are on the way for the early portions of June around here. All right, so the wind today basically out of the northwest all day long, a bit cool, cloudy, kind of rainy earlier, but now the winds are shifting more out of the south. That's going to usher in more humidity and also warmer temperatures for tomorrow. In fact, here we go. The wave heights out there now around 6 to 8 feet generally across the region, but again, that south wind is changing now directly out of the south tonight and tomorrow. So the rain showers are ending. Sunshine is back in the forecast for tomorrow and noticeably warmer, highs near 80 tomorrow, and then rain is back in the forecast late Wednesday night, but more so Thursday into Friday with cooler high temperatures back in the 60s. So the rain's now gone. A couple of showers left over. Overall, though, clearing skies tonight. And behind that, a couple of days of very nice weather for tomorrow and Wednesday before a bit of this gets in here late Wednesday evening with some showers, maybe a storm in the area late Wednesday night. But generally a very active weather pattern here, but most of it staying to our south this week, probably next week as well. So going forward, rainfall-wise, probably a quarter to a tenth of an inch of rain around here. Most is probably falling Wednesday night late or early portions of Thursday morning. morning. Our forecast then for tonight, though, is partly cloudy skies. Some dense fog is likely. Look for low temperatures down near 51. For tomorrow, noticeably warmer, sunny, nice out there, right? Look for a southwest breeze and high temperatures reaching for 80, and we're probably going to do it. Then looking ahead, your 5-day forecast shows keep things kind of warm Wednesday, 77. But then the clouds roll in Wednesday nights, Thursday, some rain showers, 62. Same thing for Friday. Here's the weekend. Looks dry to me with temperatures in the low to mid 60s.
Good to know, Jeff. Thank you for that report. Folks, after the break, Max Stern will be in with sports, so stay right here. We'll be right back.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Ready to create your backyard oasis? Alexander's Professional Landscaping will work with you to create your perfect outdoor space. Work one-on-one with our landscape designer to create a unique garden to fit your family's personal aesthetics and lifestyle. Have our pros install your new lawn, garden, or patio. Schedule a consultation today by calling 573-4497. Alexander's Professional Landscaping, the way landscaping should be.
Nothing runs like a deer.
And Greenway Equipment Sales makes it easy to keep your John Deere running smoothly year-round. Our mobile maintenance truck will come to you and service most walk-behind and riding lawn equipment right in your yard. Just call or schedule online. Whatever the season, we'll have you tuned up, sharpened up, and geared up to mow or blow whatever Mother Nature dishes up. Contact the Smith Brothers today for service delivered.
Nothing runs like a deer. From Greenway Equipment Sales, family owned and operated since 1994.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Whoever wins the most duels earns the Territory Freeze.
It's the best advantage the floor has ever had.
Bring it!
The Floor is all new Wednesdays on Fox.
Welcome back in, folks. Let's begin with the Maine baseball team, whose season just ended with a heartbreaking loss in the America East title game. It was a largely successful weekend for the Black Bears, who started the tournament with an 11-5 victory over UAlbany. In that game, Nick Pepe hit a 3-run homer that would give the Black Bears a comfortable lead, and Quinn Murphy would end it with a nice hit that resulted in 2 RBIs. The following day, the matchup was with UMBC. That was a much more contested matchup, but Troy Carpenter's 2-run homer in the 5th inning put up all the runs Maine would need to move on to their next opponent, which was number 1 Binghamton. Another back-and-forth game that was played against the league's top team. Maine took a 5-4 lead in the 9th when Hunter St. Denis homered, but 2 walks in the bottom of the 9th with the bases loaded gave Binghamton the 6-5 victory and sent them to the championship game. Because the tournament was double elimination style, Maine had one more chance to make it in when they took on UMBC again. That would be a decisive 11-6 victory. Maine then had to face Binghamton again, and they would have to beat them twice to hang the banner, but they could not get the job done. They lost 7-3 in the first game, ending the Black Bears season. What a season it was for the Black Bears. It's so much fun to cover the team, speak with Coach Durba and the boys all season long. We cannot wait to get back with them next season. Now let's check in with the Red Sox, who were just swept in their series with the Minnesota Twins.
4 home runs.
Boston's first game of the series saw them give up 5 straight runs after holding a lead in the 7th inning. Ending in a 8-6 loss in Sunday night's Game 3, the Sox again went up, this time as a 4-3 lead, and that was lost, but down 6-5 in the 9th inning, they had a chance to tie the game. A great hit gave Connor Wong a chance to do so, but the rainy weather allowed for a great skip pass to home plate, and the game ended in a 6-5 victory for the Twins. Interim manager Chad Tracy says that the tying attempt was a good play. It just didn't pan out the way that they hoped.
I understand the sentiment. Soaking wet, raining, pouring, ball's wet, and then it's going to skip on the throw. So I definitely understand the sentiment. It's not easy to throw balls. We saw it early in the game with Willier trying to throw the ball home and it slips out. So I totally get it, being aggressive there with 1 out and trying to get the game tied.
Big storyline on Sunday was the 2025 first-round draft pick Marcelo Mayer getting his first start at shortstop in the big leagues with the absence of Trevor Story. Mayer looked composed in his natural position. Even with the weather, he says he attacked the new role the way he would any other spot on the field.
Approaching it the same as I would as another position. Just going to go out there, do my best, try to help the team win. When I'm out there, just letting my instincts take over, whether that's at short, second, or third.
To the ice now. The NHL playoffs have been magnificent so far this postseason. So let's take you to the sights and sounds of Montreal for Game 3 between the Canadiens and the Hurricanes. Series tied at 1 coming into Monday night. This one starts 8 minutes in. Puck fought for in the corner. Now it's loose, and Shane Gostisbehere with the shot in space. He scores. It's 1-0 Canes. 6 minutes later, the Habs even the score. Another puck comes loose from the corner. Demidov finds Mike Matheson. He rips the shot and scores, and it's 1-1. But less than a minute later, big scrum in front of the net, Canes fighting for it, and Taylor Hall gets enough on it. They score and take a 2-1 lead. In the second period, we go now, Habs down 1, but not for long. A little back and forth action on the odd man rush, and Lane Hudson finds the back of the net. We are tied at 2. Now, we're still waiting for a final score on that game, and we will have that for you on ABC7 at 11. What a game and what a series Montreal and Carolina has been thus far. And this conference final round as a whole has been crazy. Obviously, this series has been ultra competitive. The Habs shocked the Canes in Game 1. Carolina fights back and ties it there, and then the Habs have been to 2 Game 7 series so far. Hurricanes have only played 11 games total to this point. Then on the other side, the West, Vegas with a 3-0 lead on the Cup favorite Colorado Avalanche. Totally unexpected. Did not see that one. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
Car accidents can be scary. It can feel like the whole world is crashing down around you. Hurt in a car accident, I'm on top of it. I'm your go-to guy.
Call 222-2222.
Got old metal and junk cars? Turn that clutter into cash at Daddy and Daughters. We make recycling easy, fast, and fair. From Skowhegan to Dover Foxcroft, from Troy to Lee, you can trust our certified scales and friendly service, offering top prices for junk vehicles in Maine. Whether you drop off or we pick up, Daddy and Daughters covers Central and Eastern Maine. Come see us at one of our 4 locations and watch your scrap pay off. Daddy and Daughters turn scrap into cash.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
Cancer affects everyone, but there is hope at Northern Light Eastern Maine Medical Center's Champion the Cure Challenge, where every dollar raised helps patients in our own backyard. Make a difference. Walk, run, or cycle August 15th in Brewer. Visit ctcchallenge.org.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
We're ready for baseball, and off we go.
Major League Baseball, all season long on Fox.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. For Fox 22 News at 10, I'm Doug Banks. Some handheld squeezable toys are being recalled over possible asbestos content. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says the Orb Factory, makers of Orb Funky Squeeze toys, are recalling about 121,340 squeeze toys that come in 2 models. The squeeze toys are made of a soft, stretchable material and are filled with sand. The toys are being called back over possible asbestos content in the sand. One model is a large gold monkey, and the other model is an assortment of smaller monkeys in various colors, including orange, purple, and green. The date code 310249-1A can be found on the hand of the gold monkey or on the backs of the other monkeys. Consumers should take the toys away from children and contact the Orb Factory for a refund. New data reveals just how much Americans are spending on dates. According to the BMO Real Financial Progress Index for 2026, the average date costs around $189, with millennials paying the most at $252. The bank polled more than 2,500 adults from December of last year through January of this year. The average costs include transportation, getting ready, and the actual cost of the date, such as food, drinks, or tickets. The report also shows around 44% of Americans say they have changed or adjusted date plans for financial reasons. And finally, here on the broadcast here on this Memorial Day Monday, between Stockton Springs and Frankfort sits the small Waldo County town of Prospect. Not much has changed there over the years, except for the use of the town's former one-room schoolhouse. Our Jody Hersey stopped by to learn more. Here's that story.
It's a sleepy little town with a small population.
Prospect has less than 1,000 residents, and at one time, those living in this small town all attended the Marsh School on the Bangor Road. This one-room schoolhouse served grades 1 through 8.
Originally, it was the one-room schoolhouse, and it's the last one left standing. It was discontinued, I believe, in 1962, and after that time, it's been used as a town office, a food pantry, a library.
Today, this building is home to the Prospect Historical Society and Museum, where visitors will find old school desks and a blackboard, along with other historic memorabilia.
We've put an awful lot of energy into this building and collecting things and setting up the research room, and it would be a tragedy to have it not used.
The building is open just a few days a month, but if the Prospect Historical Society can attract more members, this museum could be open every weekend. Member Arlene LaMarche helped create a veterans display inside the museum.
It's very important that we never forget those that we have lost, those that are still serving.
Preserving Prospect's past for future generations to enjoy.
It's very important for the younger generation, for families to bring their children here so that they can see the history of the town, because it's so important to know where you came from, where you're going, who shaped you when you lived here and as you go into the future.
In Prospect, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And that was our Jody Hersey with that story. It's always interesting to see a small Maine town take something that might have been, for like repurposing something that still connects the past with the present, so that people today can see what life was like in that town, or who lived there, what experiences they had, and trying to share that with the next generation who might be going through maybe some similarities or absolute differences, and just trying to understand, the complexities of both the past and the present. Well, that's all we have for tonight. I'm Doug Banks, and for everyone here on Fox 22 News at 10, thank you for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow morning, and hopefully you are too. Until then, take care. Good night.
For more local news coverage, switch over to our sister station, ABC 7, right now for ABC 7 News at 11.
Garrett Mason is the America First conservative for governor. Mason will fight alongside President Trump to deport criminal illegal aliens and keep Maine families safe. No sanctuary cities in Maine, ever. Garrett Mason is tough on illegal immigration.
Chevy trucks are as capable and dependable as the Chevy people who drive them.
It made a difference in people's lives, and I don't feel bad about that. Matter of fact, I feel pretty good about it.
Thank you so much. Hi, how you doing?
My legacy as a talk show host, I believe, will stand for intentionality with empathy, compassion, and self-awareness. And some regrettable outfits and really bad hair.
You're not there to be a star. You're there to serve the people who are kind enough to watch you. We do the best we can, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming.
For all those people that grew up with our show, it gave them information, it gave them entertainment, it gave them a look at life the way others lived it. And I can tell you this, for 31 years, it was real.
Tune in for a triple-decker with 3 back-to-back episodes of R.J. Decker, tomorrow on ABC.
Decker Investigations.
Tuesday, with 3 back-to-back episodes of R.J. Decker.
Como se dice possible homicide?
It's a triple-decker of America's hottest PI.
Try not to die tonight.
I will do my best.
The Triple R.J. Decker Tuesday on ABC.
This is ABC 7 News at 11.
Despite many Memorial Day parades being canceled